Oh, hi. Oh, I changed some settings and now there's so much stuff on the screen. Hi everyone. How are you? How's everyone doing today? Happy Monday. Oh, that's loud. I'm doing alright. I had a cool idea. I'm just going through basically and like... So I explained last time the theory, right? And now I'm going back through and like differentiating anything that's too similar. So for this one, like these two legs were exactly the same. So now I pushed it to like these interesting, like claw on a string things. Which I had the theory of like if they arrive on a ship, they can put the claws down, right, and it sinks into the deck. And allows them to do interesting things. Just to kind of make this guy more interesting. Right, to make the conceptualization of his design just better. Yeah. And other than that, there's just a little bit of like casual cleaning up to do. To make these designs just a little more, I'd say like nuanced. Kind of halfway between generalist and specialist in concept. Right, these are a specialist unit. Like, to be an Ironside is to be a specialist, that's in the description. But at the same time, you're not the only Ironside, so it can't feel too much like you're a single, unique person. But then also, as a player character in an RPG, you want to feel like the main character. Or a TTRPG, like, as a player character in a party, you want to feel like a main character at all times, because you are a main character. If you don't feel at all like a main character, it doesn't work. So like there's a real balance to hit with this that I'm just trying to really find with all of them. Right, exactly. So I also want, yeah, I want it to feel like each Ironside is going around making their own gear to an extent, right? This guy's got a cool contraption here that he uses pretty regularly. Then the guy one over from him might have done something completely different with their cool, unique equipment, and that's okay. And like that's a normal thing. Specialists customize, right? That's a huge part of designing specialist units for things, is they need to be customizable to an extent. But yeah, I thought that was a really cool like direction to take his. That makes him maybe a little more dynamic than the other ones. I still think it's probably too plain at the top. But like all of these have a core concept, right? That I just am going to push further. I'm going to take some of the advice from my right? The high altitude thing. It's like, what's a good way to do that? So I thought about like wrapping them in furs like this, which I think has some limited application. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things that I need to figure out for this, right? Like, it doesn't work right now. Or not enough, I should say. So, maybe this guy, right? Part of... I'm actually gonna get this mitten gauntlets because I like mittens. But yeah, one of the things you kind of mentioned is like the helmet for this one could very much be some kind of high altitude protection piece. I am wondering if I do this and add a crest, if that looks good or not. Because we could go very traditional, right, and do like that. But I actually quite like the blank plate. Yeah, that might be nice, actually. Yeah, glass could be interesting, but I feel like I don't want to get too close to sci-fi stuff. So this is an interesting balance point. When designing like semi-industrial fantasy, semi-steampunk, right? I think I have to be very careful to not flitter too far over. Yeah, maybe. The perspective on that mask is now like super off, and I hate it. This needs to come in and go down. Yeah, if this is going to be like this, it needs to move around. Perspective. Temptation equal high. No, that's going to look horrible, isn't it? Yeah, that looks terrible. Let's not do that. What we do have to do is put that in a little bit. That's better. There we go. You guys are unhinged in the best way. That is a compliment. Fine, let's put littler bolts in all of these. It's actually a valid point. I'm going to design these to be little umbrella-y shapes. You'll see what I mean. because I've had a genius idea based off your idea for a different reason. Which is, yeah, if they're high in the clouds and rain's running onto them all the time, why would they not have armor that's designed for water to just split off it, you know? Yeah, the fur is kind of decorative for now. I think if I go... So, there's another stage to this, right? And I think if I go with this design, the first thing I try is, like, layers of oilcloth instead of fur. Because, of course, the thing to remember, right, is the skyships hunt, for those that have read the document. Sorry, acidic soda, but... skyships are hunting sky whales. And they do so in storms, mostly, right? That's when sky whales are around. They hunt through a storm. And so... the Ironsides are going to have to be... It's not their job to hunt explicitly. They are guards on a ship. But they're going to have to be prepared to be in the heart of a storm. With nothing but, like, on deck and fighting to stop piracy in the middle of storms. But I think it's interesting here for a different reason, right? Which is, surely then their equipment needs to be designed in such a way that they can just persist in a storm, right? Unwavering. That's why they're so heavy and solid. And perhaps within that as well, they're kind of unreservedly prepared for, like, the consequence of that. Like, you're a lightning rod in a lightning storm in this gear. But they know that. They're prepared. Maybe that, in fact, is part of it. And if you fight against other Ironsides, what kind of weapon do you need? You need one that's going to crack their armor. do it the other way. Let's inset these barrels slightly. I don't love the hammer, but it was a cool idea to explore, and I think it's worth exploring at least one, like, combined big melee flintlock thingy. Kind of a weird grabby hand, but that's fine. Alright, what do we think? I don't hate it. Wait, no. I'm being dumb. I put that in the wrong place. Okay. Yeah, I think for a D&D style environment, it's just a little too much. Actually, that one's now kind of too big, ironically. Yeah, it's never got a new shield. So I think the main thing I see as a problem with Thor's hammer is actually just that it kind of just makes a better hammer. It doesn't make him a hybrid gunpowder ranged, like even shorter gunpowder ranged and melee class, right? Just makes him a big melee weapon class. In the same way that I almost think it's too much armor. And in D&D, the heaviest armored person in the party is not the fighter, right? It's the paladin. So there is a slight weirdness there. Of it's almost too paladin-y heavy. Whereas like 9, I think, is more what you would consider a traditional fighter to look like. And certainly has less of that kind of like, it's almost our paladin problem. Which I think plate armor classes do have an issue with generally. Which is, oh, your silhouette is the same because you wear heavy armor and therefore you're very similar. I don't know what my mentor said, and I don't really know if I like this idea. But we'll try it. Yeah, but I'm not making Pathfinder subclasses. Actually, that ruins some of the work I already did, doesn't it? Let's do that on this lower layer. Okay. I feel better about some of the different, but 9 I think is also not bad. By the way, this is the easiest way to set up a brand new version of this. Yeah, I think that's the problem, is it just looks like another fighter. It doesn't have anything special to it right now. Which is fine, we don't blame him for that. Okay, I actually have quite a lot to do still for this week. Let's do... And let's do this. So this lets me keep all of my formatting, in essence, right? Let's merge that down. Okay. I've actually messed up in that process, haven't I? There we go. That's fine. I should have paid more attention because these lines are out of whack. For no apparent reason. There we go. Now new folder, leave that one. Rename this one. To guidelines. Sorry, I realize you can't see me doing any of my folder messing, but that's probably a good thing. Okay. Oh yeah, so this was going to be an interesting thing I discuss. These are from the incredible Chris Ron. And these are his class silhouettes for D&D. And these are such a good touchstone for how designing classes should work. Because there are no labels on these, right? But I can tell you what each of these classes are. But if you would like to play a game with me, in order, if you would like to type what you think the classes are. I know, audience participation. Actually, I'm not even going to let you see. We're going to look at the first one. What is the first one? Yep. Barbarian. Second one. I think these two are the easiest, but they're all pretty easy. Second one is Board. Third. This is probably the hardest one. Where? Cleric. Fourth one. Le Druide. Fighter. Monk. I'm going to skip through them now. See that the Paladin is just chunkier. Right? That's someone who's taking damage and hitting you hard. compared to a fighter who is fighting, if you know what I mean. More active. Then Ranger. Rogue. We're going to ignore how I wrote Ranger. These last three are funny. Right, but you can tell he's a paladin, you know? Yeah. I find these ones interesting because I always find it interesting that, like, yeah, Sorcerer is clearly the one that's spellcasting without anything. The lack of object is what makes the Sorcerer clearly a Sorcerer for D&D. I think that's a really cool thing to it. But yeah, in simple terms, right? In full design are base silhouettes for every D&D class here. And I just think Chris Ron's really good at this, basically. Plus, I love the stylization of this. I think it's really strong. This is how I'm gonna try and do stage 2, right? The other thing is look at the values. So I'm gonna put them here. I'm gonna have like value 1. He's so smart with this because I used black and then like much darker values. Chris Ron does that. Right, these are the only 2 values he's used. But just exceptionally well. Yeah. Yeah, only 2 values. And then with a white background, which helps for this process. So I'm using a darker background, so it doesn't work quite as well. So I should probably darken the values by a semitone if I want to do the same thing, right? But I can do this with darker values. I shouldn't go black. It's actually the thing, is the black was not great from me before. Alright, we're doing the Whaler now. And the Whaler is probably the subclass I'm most worried about. Because what should the Whaler be doing? You know? So the Whalers are a ranger subclass, and on an airship, they are hunting sky whales. They are probably the most specialist hunters you could find, right? They basically are going around and hunting these impossibly massive creatures for their skin and their bone. In a way that's almost incomprehensible. Yeah, but remember rangers cast spells in D&D. Not many, but they do. And they do traditionally have some, like, I'll call them fixed weapons, quote unquote. I want to start this properly. Well, yeah, so part of me is like, massive crossbow. It's absolutely the pathway that I should be taking with this, right? Like, why not go massive enchanted weapon? Wouldn't that be cool? Like, it's a city of enchantment, you have a massive enchanted crossbow that you use to hunt whales. What do they need, though? Like, so then this is the next question. What would a whaler need to subsist in the sky? What's important? Yeah, I don't think they can mount a whale. I think sky whales are too immense for that. That's where I think it's like, how do you hunt something that I'm deliberately designing to be almost impossibly massive, right? So I think my first idea is like, yeah, it's like a super cool long crossbow. Makes sense to me. They do plummet. They plummet into the ocean where scavenger ships basically then when it floats on top of the ocean, right? And that's when they carve it up for bone. But skyships can go down as well, right? So they go down and they hover above, and that's where they unload onto it. I know, which I was thinking this through, right? Which is, how does this practically work? Because yes, I also had originally envisaged like all happening in the air, but then as I was thinking it through, I was like, wait. I did think for a moment it's like maybe they harpoon it. Several skyships will harpoon it, and it like stays floating there, or maybe sky whales naturally float. But then I thought, what an amazing visual thing of like you've hunted a sky whale and now it falls. You can, but if it dies and it falls, you're on its back. But yeah, you've hunted this thing and now it just plummets. It full on just slides down into the abyss. And like, imagine if you're party members, right? So imagine if you're having an adventure taking place on a whaling ship. You have slain the sky whale. And now it begins to fall. The magic animating it, not like keeping it in the air, only lasted through its life, and now it's dead. It just falls. And it falls at such speed and with such force that, like, it's a small tidal wave. You have to take it down far enough away from the city and from people that it's not going to just drench buildings. And now you, piloting your skyship, have to dive after it and make sort of what you can from it. This is where scavengers and pirates, like everyone, sees the sky whale come down. There's no subtlety to what you've just done. And I think it can be a really cool moment to like push characters and push conflict and push interesting D&D things, right? Well done, you have slain a sky whale. Now you've got to keep the remains yours while you scavenge it for pieces. And, you know, the magic-rich blood and blubber of a sky whale dripping is going to attract other things, too. Right? Yeah, I like that more. That broadhead's nice. I haven't figured out the mechanics for the whalers in the same way I figured out the mechanics for the Ironside, right? So there's also part of me that's like, this visual development process is also going to help me decide what they actually do. Why are they special? I think having a whaler is really important to the setting. But what does that actually mean for it? What does a whaler actually do in this environment? In this case, this whaler has a massive crossbow. So the sky whale material, no, because the sky whale material is bone, right? And what dictates the quality of bone is two things, which is age and kind of the innate power of a sky whale. The difficult thing is you have to, like, everything about sky whale is useful. The whale oil is used for mass industry. And that's what I almost imagine is when a sky whale comes down, ships arrive and they almost like set up scaffolding, like a refinery on top of this floating corpse, and it takes months, if not a year or more, to harvest them. This isn't a short process. But taking down a whale isn't a short process either. But then it's also, how big do I want a sky whale to be? Maybe this is an exploration that is more important, right? Like, how big is the sky whale that we're talking about here? What scale of industry are we referring to when we say this? Because there's a big difference between, well, a normal whale-sized sky whale and a multiple-story building-sized sky whale. I haven't decided yet, and maybe I should. So I have a lot of work to do still for these thumbnails. I quite like where this thumbnail is going, actually. It's a bit big, as in, I should have thumbnailed this, and I should make this much smaller. But I like that starting silhouette, actually. I think that's kind of interesting. But what we're going to do is, for the remainder of the stream, I won't be doing too much longer for now. But what I'm going to do is I'm quickly going to open this, and we're just going to take the text identifiers page, and we'll do that too. Why not? Yeah, we'll just take those two quickly. Good. I'm going to take this. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the photo of a whale. And in terms of, like, there's so many whale types, but it's what whale do I want? Here it is. So, whales, right? In scale to an elephant here. You have the blue whale, which is the massive one. Fin whales, sow whales, bowhead whales. Sperm whales are the ones with, like, the iconic really big nose. Humpback whales. I think we probably want to go with a... I'm trying to visually think through what I want the whales to look like. Like, how do I want them to be? There are, but I think I want there to be a core image of a sky whale for now. Just, I think it's good to have a singular core idea to start with. It's kind of like the overall shape formology. I think the blue whale, maybe. Okay. This is just like how the design process has to work for now. I just need to think through the process. Because it's not going to look like a whale entirely, right? Okay, let's do a blue whale base. Or a humpback is the other, like, classic, right? When you think of a whale, maybe it's a humpback whale people think of when they think of a whale. Yeah, I'm gonna take this photo. And we're just gonna take the core silhouette of this whale quickly. To note, I just want the silhouette for now. I just want this base shape. I don't need any detail, because I'm going to redesign all of it, basically. Cool. So there's our whale shape. In very basic. And the first thing I want to think is, like, rather than being down focused, I want it to be slightly more up focused. So I'm going to increase that arch. I'm going to increase the nose. And then the fins I'm going to widen through. Maybe I don't want to widen the fins that much, actually. No, I think I want to go the other direction with the fins, maybe. This, I'll change formology of the tail a little bit. Yeah, I think I want to widen the fins, and then we add more. And then little fins here. So I haven't really decided scale fully, as I sort of said, right? But what I might do is really make this massive. Because similarly, like, one of the big anatomy things that doesn't need to be the same, right, is a sky whale doesn't need breathing apparatus in quite the same way. Well, they swim through the ether above the clouds. Right. And I think it's the ether itself that's likely the unbreathable thing. It's just high altitude, right? So that's a sky whale, loosely. I think that's my design for a sky whale. What do we think? Actually, it's not designed for a sky whale. I think that's too big. Oh, it will. This is a very base level. But the next thing is going to be the scalar stuff. Needs to be another layer. Where is it? TV. What would be a good scale comparison for a sky whale? Actually. don't like that much. I'll sort the rest of that later. What we'll do now is, yeah, an airship. Maybe only 2 masts actually. Yeah, there we go. Well, this is the thing, right? If this is the scale I go for, you don't want the babies. They're not worth it. Or, so the original scale idea would be like, I had in mind was that. Just so small. Right? You think that's too small? You see, you say that, but like, have you seen a whaling harpoon for an actual whale hunt? This is the thing that's fascinating to me. So whale to human scale. Like, this is a picture from a genuine whaling boat, right? Look how small that harpoon actually is. Like, they're not... Or for some contemporary art for it, right? It's like... This is a very famous painting. But... Well, I wonder if it's magical instead, right? A correctly enchanted bolt. Because, like, how does a ranger normally fight a Tarask? They shoot piddly arrows until it dies. But maybe that is too small. Maybe it needs to be more like that. Well, okay, so this is part of the setting idea, which is... This is dark fantasy, right? As much as there's kind of a cool aspirational approach to it, I really want this to feel like a more dark fantasy setting than a light fantasy setting, if you know what I mean. Like, there's something very cool about... Conceptually, there's something very not dark fantasy about the idea of, like, a lot of the concepts to it. But I really want this to also... Part of this is that subversion. It's like, yeah, the idea of enormous flying whales is kind of awesome and not really negative in the way that dark fantasy can often be. But the almost eldritch, horror-y aspect of this is there are these amazing giant whales, and what's everyone doing? Hunting them for their bodies. And then basically forming shanty towns, floating on top of them to strip them of all value. Like, there's nothing nice about this. This is kind of a deeply disturbing thing instead. And I kind of want it to feel that way. But at the same time, if you wanted to play this as like a much lighter setting, I think there's provision for that as well within the design. Right, yeah, like, in theory, if someone wanted to play this campaign setting as... Actually, it's a civilization on the back of this whale, they could do that. There'd be rules that would be adaptable for that. But this is the opposite, right? I'm just gonna do one more thing quickly. Because I just had the idea, and I kind of want to play it off a minute. No, but this is the thing, right? The druids in this setting are storm singers. They are part of this whaling ecosystem. They're not friendly fellows. I must have a cloud brush somewhere. I do. We'll see. I think part of the point in the setting... This is going to sound really weird for a second. I think part of the point is people aren't... They don't care. Right. People do not care. It's not that kind of friendliness to the world. Oh yeah, absolutely, right? That's the point. The setting doesn't need to have... Okay, so I'm also of a belief that, like, if people want to do that, that's amazing. I, as a DM, would be very happy with that. I, as the creator of the setting, I'm very happy with that. But I don't feel the need to provide those narrative hooks, necessarily. Does that make sense? So let's do the sales differently. Oh, me too. There's a lot of things in this setting that I really hope people play with that I'm not going to put there, but I'm like, I really hope someone figures it out and does it, because it will be super cool. But I don't feel the need to spend time providing it, but someone should definitely do it, because it's cool. There's just got to be like a value equation for me, right? Of like, what am I going to spend time creating, balancing, story writing, drawing, and what is like very easy for someone to do for themselves later with their DM and their friends. Like, I hope people play the setting, but I don't personally feel the need to make it the perfect nuanced setting. Like, it's gonna have its themes. I haven't really decided how the skyships should work, actually. And I maybe should have figured that one out. I'm looking for a specific piece of art that has inspired me. I don't really want to design the skyship right now. I just want something semi-functional for what I'm about to do for scaling terms. Just do that for now. Yeah, let's just do this for now. And then I want to do another layer of cloud. top with... Oh, I have other cloud brushes. Oh, no, that's not good. What about that cloud brush? Well, that cloud brush is also not great. I like the first cloud more. Cool. No, there's a specific brush I want now. Oh, I like that brush though. I like that brush too. Let's go with primary then. Nope, that's not good. Actually, that was okay. Drawing lightning is hard, particularly without references. Doo. select everything. Shrink the selection by 3. Shrink the selection by 4 this time. We're going to shrink the total selection by 6. Yeah, let's try that. Actually, that might still be too much. Let's try 5. Invert selected area. Delete all outside. There we go. Let me go back to home. There we go. It's not perfect, but this should suffice for what I wanted to do for now. What we do is, another one, we go back to our cloud brush. No, that was a bad idea. There's a better way to do this, which is layer settings, not layer settings, new correction layer, saturation, luminosity, and it's up on saturation and luminosity. And you color the whole thing black. Oh, wait, no. You select the whole thing and color, and then what you do is And a little ship, which is going to be there, is going to get a wee brushing. And for the interesting thing that we want to do, well, there's two choices, I suppose. How do I want to do this? Another hue saturation. Oh, flip. I didn't mean to do it on that layer. That's fine. What we need is like a glow dodge, quite bright. Actually, let's just... really chaos ruins. Really. Here we go. This ship is too big. That's why this exists. Sweet. Here we go. Hunting a sky whale. And this, and we can do glow dodge. They might do. This is just a little mood piece. It's not going to be a finished representation of anything, don't worry. I need to actually design the sky whales in full with like anatomy and things. This is just to do a fun little like... Filter, blur, Gaussian, set it to like 21. Filter, no operation. There we go. Just make the lightning glow a little. And actually, I need just a bit less of that now. There we go. A tiny bit less extreme. Cool. The skyship's kind of wrong and too simple. But hopefully it gives a good impression of like the scale of a ship versus a whale. Or at least the intended scale. And yeah, that's our Skywhale scale. And then we're back to here, which is where we're actually supposed to be. But I'm going to wrap up the stream for today. I'm also going to post these online, I guess. And possibly in Discord, I might make a channel for, like, stuff we worked on in stream. I'll see. Or social media stuff, because I want to grow the social medias too. I need to decide that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. What did we do today as a quick like wrap up? We did some more refinement and idea stuff for these guys. We did pretty well on that, I think. Yeah, I feel pretty good about these. I think I'm slower than I want to be on things. I'll just have to crunch some real work tomorrow. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the environment. That is the plan. Always happy to have you, Beef. Always a pleasure. Yeah, I think the grapple legs have done so much work to make that design look better. I need to choose. Okay, so things to do this week. Is I've got the rest of the thumbnails for the Ranger to do, for the Whaler to do. Then we're going to pick one of each of these. Then we do 2 refined versions. I think it's too much work. I think it's going to be too much work, and I think I'm going to have to adjust my project plan. Because it's quite a lot. But if I double the week... Yeah, if I do... Okay, it's fine, because I put 2 expansion weeks in place. And I can just kind of ignore those. But yeah, we'll adjust all of that. So this is what we've done today. We started those, did the Sky Whale, did the Sky Whale eye illustration thing, which is just for fun really, but looks kind of cool, I hope. And actually, there's one more adjustment I'm going to quickly make, which is we're going to go here, we're going to go here, we've got the cloud brush already. We're going to go to this like dark tone. We're just gonna reinforce that, and then actually I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here-ish. Actually needs to be bigger. The idea is there, but it needs to be way bigger. Is that better? Or worse? I actually need Some darker clouds at the very front, maybe. But the lightning needs to go on top, doesn't it? Yeah. Hmm. There we go. Let's do another correction layer. Could play with like green lightning for another day, maybe. Just turn down the saturation slightly. Okay, I'm actually leaving now. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.